Our topic is about how education affects the inequality of income. In general, the higher education you have, the more income you will earn. Here we have someone with a professional degrees earns twice more than someone who has bachelor's degrees. However, the education isn't only about higher income, it's also about the more opportunities you will have.
We interviewed Peter Jolly, a successful computer engineer who has a bachelor's degree in computer science. He has first-hand experience in seeing that a degree makes all the difference in the world when it comes to opportunity. Employers have increasingly used diplomas and degrees as a way to screen applicants. Once hired, the salary reflects on the credentials.
All right. Could you state your name, your job position, or your employer, either one, and your level of education and where?
Pete Jolly, worked for NetApp in Sunnyvale. I'm a field applications engineer. And I got a bachelor's degree in computer science.
Okay. So, first question, how has education affected your employment? Basically, give a walkthrough of your employment before and during your education and afterwards. What was different?
So I was making just about minimum wage until the day I graduated, and when I graduated, my pay went, trying to think, to probably about $35 an hour back then, and from about $4 an hour. So
Okay.
quite a big jump.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, just by having a bachelor's degree.
Could you tell me about
Telecode was a company I formed when I started out contracting. I basically worked for a recruiting agency, and you would just report to them as a W-2 employee. One of the contract shops I worked for went out of business, and when they went out of business, they lost a bunch of money for about 5 of us. So I decided at that point to form my own company and just get my own contracts and do my own thing. And so that's when Telecode started. Not really. I mean, I've met some folks that didn't have degrees, and they were able, and they had careers, and they were able to get through, but they were always fighting the system. They were hampered in terms of being able to get into management, for example. Most companies, especially these days, but even back then, were putting rules in place that you could not be a second-line manager and maybe even a first-line manager if you didn't have a 4-year degree in something. And so I knew a lot of managers that did not have 4-year degrees that were going back to school at night to try to, University of Phoenix or something to get a 4-year degree in anything, just to fulfill that requirement. Even in the medical profession, I've seen that where, you want to get into management, you got to have at least a 4-year degree. The other thing in engineering that's been frustrating over the years is you see people running around calling themselves engineers, and then you find out that they're not degreed engineers. So the title has been watered down in a lot of ways. You see this in society in general. I mean, there's no such thing as a garbage man anymore. He's a sanitation engineer, for goodness sakes. There's no such thing as a sanitation engineer. An engineer is a person with a 4-year degree in engineering. And, you're either a garbage man or an engineer. And so unfortunately, that's been confusing for a lot of people. But the bottom line is, I think it's a mistake to not get a 4-year degree, at least in something. If you want to work in the technical fields, even if you're in sales, training, even management, where you don't necessarily work hands-on with the technology, having a 4-year degree in something technical is pretty huge, because you have an understanding of what's going on, at least, even if you're not hands-on. I think one thing that education does is there's a sense of completion, that you've accomplished something. One thing that I was frustrated about when I was going through my 4-year degree, my undergraduate degree, was that there were a number of classes that had nothing to do with my technical degree. I mean, I literally had nights where I had programming assignments that were due the next day, and I couldn't get the programs to run, and so I needed to be in the lab working on those, and I was making ashtrays in a ceramics class. And I just, the irony of that just stuck with me. Like, why am I making ashtrays? Is this some sort of penance that I'm taking, or what? But the reality was, it's general education requirements that you have to commit. And I think one of the disadvantages people have if they don't finish a 4-year degree, I think hiring managers look at that and they may say, hey, you've got all your credits, or you got most of your credits, but the reality is you didn't finish it. And when you finish a 4-year degree or anything that's a milestone, it shows that you followed all the way through, you completed something. And that tells your employer something, that you got a project that's in trouble. This is a guy or a gal that I could probably count on to finish something. And that's one thing that completion of a degree signifies, I think, to a hiring manager, that this person can follow through and finish. Because a 4-year degree is not easy. And if nothing else, even if your degree isn't directly relevant to the work you're doing, it does show that you went in and you came out and you finished. And being able to finish something, that's something that a lot of people can't claim. But if you have a 4-year degree under your arm, that's something that you can be proud of. So,
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
my pleasure.
We can conclude that inequality between educated individuals and non-educated individuals goes beyond income and into opportunity. A degree may only be a piece of paper, but that piece of paper will forever be a signal to others to give you a chance, to give you an opportunity.